Selfdiscipline for Tedious, Boring, and Difficult Things. Written by Peter Hollins. Narrated by Russell Newton. Chapter 1. Take control of your time. Time is the coin of your life. It is the only coin you have, and only you can determine how it will be spent. Be careful, lest you let other people spend it for you. Carl Sandburg. Can you control how much time you have in a day? Nope. But you can control how you organize and arrange that time, what you do with the time you have, and the order of your activities. In a way, being able to control these things is being able to control how much time you have. First things first, good time management is not about juggling, working faster, or taking clever shortcuts. Instead, it's about the intelligent use of time. When you use time intelligently, there's always enough of it. The 52-17 method. Julia Gifford has always been fascinated by questions of productivity. She wanted to test out which approaches to time management produced genuine results and led to more productivity over time. She conducted a research study on employee workflow using the DeskTime app and discovered that the most productive employees tended to work with intense purpose for 52 minutes and then take a 17-minute break, fully disengaging from the task to prepare for the next work sprint. Those numbers seem pretty specific, right? What's interesting about Gifford's investigations is how well it aligns with the Pomodoro technique, which is a simple time management method that involves 25-minute focused work intervals, Pomodoros, followed by 5-minute breaks, with a longer break after 4 cycles. Gifford found evidence that people tended to manage roughly 10-minute-long work sessions, 2 Pomodoros, with a break between that was neither too long nor too short. Depending on your current work habits, these numbers may seem surprising, either because the work interval seems too long or short, or the break interval does. Our expectations and perceptions of what counts as hard work can be extremely distorted. Consider these 2 examples. There's a task to accomplish. Person A starts at 10 a.m. and plods on for 3 hours straight, no breaks. At the end of those 3 hours, i.e., 1 p.m., the task is complete, and they're exhausted. Person B starts the same task at the same time, but does it in sprints. They first do 45 minutes, then take a 15-minute break, and then repeat that pattern twice more. They finish the job at roughly 1 p.m. as well, not exhausted at all. Who is the most productive? Both took 3 hours to do the task, and both finished at the same time, but there's a big difference. Person A is exhausted, and Person B isn't. That's because Person B had 45 minutes of rest that Person A didn't. In fact, let's continue our example. Person A is exhausted by 1 p.m. and slacks off for the rest of the afternoon as a reward for working so hard. They've got a headache. Person B feels fine. Chapter 2. Take control of your priorities or focus. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. When you look at a weekly, monthly, or yearly calendar, you might get the impression that all those little blocks, all those days are there and available for you to use. Maybe you look at all those little blocks and conclude that you have plenty of time available to work on your dreams and projects. The truth is, however, that you don't. All you have is those days that you actively seize and dedicate to the pursuit of those dreams. And every day that you fail to do this is another day that you don't have. The things that truly matter to us will never get done by accident. The plain truth is that nobody else is going to make our dreams their priority. That's our job. We will never receive an invitation to do better. We will never feel 100% ready to start. And we don't need to ask or earn permission to value what we value. If you want to achieve something in the future, then what you do today, right now, matters. This is what our second chapter is about, getting crystal clear on what we want to focus on and what we don't. Anti-overcommitment formula. Many people mistakenly identify their problem as a lack of productivity when, in reality, their issues stem from overcommitment. In the previous section, we saw that even though time management is essential, it also matters how you prioritize tasks and what goes into the jar first, so to speak. You can see the problem of overcommitment in a similar way. When you only have rocks to fit in your jar, sooner or later, you're going to find that nothing fits. Let's say you're someone who's seriously trying to work on your personal development, and that means improving your health, your relationships, your career, your home life, and your finances. You're motivated to do all these things, and they are important. The problem is, you don't have enough room in your jar for that many big rocks. You need to prioritize. Not being able to successfully fit in several major life goals at once does not mean that you're bad at time management or that you need to find ways to be more productive. There is no productivity hack on earth that will make all those rocks fit. Too often, people embark on self-improvement missions and attempt to do too much at once. They make several changes to their lifestyles, set themselves multiple ambitious goals across many different areas of life, and then get frustrated when they don't seem to be able to muster enough time or energy to get everything done. Rather than reappraise their expectations, they wonder what they can do to become more productive. The pressure of excessive commitments leads to a sense of time debt. Sometimes those are commitments that are placed on us by outside forces, but if we're honest, we are often the ones placing at least some of this pressure on ourselves. Managing expectations is key. Modest goals, worked on consistently, may not seem as glamorous as dramatic overnight success stories, but the irony is that Chapter 3, Take Control of Your Output. Success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will come. Dwayne Johnson. Imagine that today, the day you're living right now, is a day you'll have to repeat forever until the day you die. Whatever you do today, you will have to keep doing. Where will you be in 10 years' time? 20. When we're engaged in personal development projects and trying to improve ourselves, it's easy to imagine that someday in the future, we'll finally have figured it out. In the future, the things we find difficult right now will all magically be easier, and the laziness and fear we feel today will simply not be an issue tomorrow. But switch this around and imagine it's the other way, that all you will ever do is what you can manage to do right now today. This is closer to how things really are. It's what we do every day, consistently, that creates our future. Actions we're planning to do someday, or conditions we're hoping will come about in the future, none of these things are actually going to determine the course of our lives. The only thing that's real is what we do today. Tomorrow, we can do it again and keep building on that. This is why it's always better to have a very modest but recurring habit instead of a grand overnight makeover project that sounds nice but never actually gets off the ground. It's better to do a small thing 1,000,000 times over than to try to do a single massive task just once. The small things, the daily actions, are what we can control. We can create a big, impressive life out of small, unimpressive units. And those units are just ordinary days. Days like this one. 70-20-10 technique. For anyone who has ever attempted the grueling task of writing a full-size novel from scratch, they'll know that a very frequent suggestion is to take care of the quantity, and the quality will take care of itself. In other words, commit to doing your daily habit of, say, 1,000 words, and do it, no matter what. If you get too hung up on the quality of those words, to the extent that you barely write anything, then you won't get anywhere. This advice sometimes takes the form of be willing to write badly. Let's talk about Jonathan Mann, a 38-year-old songwriter and podcaster based in Hartford, Connecticut, who is known for his Song a Day project. He's been writing and recording a song every day since January 1, 2009, and he's probably the best example of putting this principle of quantity first into practice. Inspired by various events and daily occurrences, Mann has now amassed over 4,300 songs, receiving recognition from the Guinness Book of World Records for the most consecutive days spent songwriting. The habit started when he took up an online challenge during a period of unemployment, and it persisted, even during challenging moments like... Chapter 4. Take control of your environment. It is better for you to take responsibility for your life as it is, instead of blaming others or circumstances for your predicament. As your eyes open, you'll see that your state of health, happiness, and every circumstance of your life has been, in large part, arranged by you, consciously or unconsciously. Dan Millman. In this chapter, we're going to be taking a good look at excuses, i.e., all the strange names we give to our own decision not to take the action we know we should. The list of reasons people can't be more disciplined and productive is literally infinite. I have a busy and demanding job, and I just don't have enough time for X. I'm raising a family, and I'm too exhausted for X. I'd love to X, but I don't have enough money. Other people are holding me back. The place I live in is holding me back. My past is holding me back. It's too cold today. It's Sunday. I'm tired. Meh. All of the above are ways of blaming essentially the environment for our choices or lack thereof. It is entirely true that we are influenced by the environment we find ourselves in, but we always seem to forget that we can also influence our environment. We can move. We can make new friends. We can change jobs. We can fix our lifestyles. We can put on a sweater. We never have complete control over absolutely everything, but we never have so little to justify taking no action. One big excuse that may come up for you is one that is partly a good reason and partly a bad excuse. I can't do X because I don't know where to start. I'm uncertain or overwhelmed or stressed. Luckily, there's a lot we can do to make our world feel clearer and easier to navigate. Combat uncertainty with clarity. Many people talk about procrastination as though it is a problem in its own right. However, procrastination is not a problem. It's a symptom of a problem. And until you have a clear understanding of what that problem is, you will continue to procrastinate. We may embark on a task and find ourselves wavering, afraid, overwhelmed, or confused. Then we hesitate and fail to take action. What happens next is how we interpret this hesitation. We may conclude that we are lazy or undisciplined, but is that really the problem? Procrastination is a symptom that accompanies many quite different problems, but one common one is a lack of certainty. This kind of procrastination can be better understood as uncertainty paralysis, a phenomenon that occurs when individuals are unclear about their tasks, their goals, their purpose, and so on. Most of us tend to just assume that if there is a task in front of us, all the big why and what questions have already been answered, and we simply needed to dive in and get started. Sometimes, however, our repeated inability to get started with something may be telling us something important. Chapter 5. Take control of your emotions and mindset. The concept of emotional intelligence suggests that intelligence may understand emotion and that emotion may facilitate intelligence. Joseph Chiaroki, Joseph Forgas, and John Mayer, 2006. Not knowing how to handle negative emotions like fear, shame, and overwhelm can derail your life. They can undermine your deepest held ambitions and cut your potential in half. But if you reread the above, you'll notice that it's not that negative emotions themselves can sabotage you. Rather, it's the inability to handle them that causes us so much trouble. You could be forgiven for thinking that discipline and self-control are all about suppression and learning to squash down and ignore all those messy, uncomfortable feelings. The opposite is true, though. People who are effective, productive, and poised do not have fewer negative emotions than anyone else. They've just learned how to manage them wisely. Mastering your emotions is not about becoming a cold, invulnerable robot. Rather, it's about learning to understand and use your own feelings consciously and intelligently. Rapid Planning Method. In Tony Robbins' workbook, Time of Your Life, he explains his RPM, Rapid Planning Method, like this. The first step toward taking back your focus and achieving the realization of your vision is to ask yourself 3 questions in a specific sequence on a consistent basis. The RPM system. Although RPM stands for Rapid Planning Method, you can also think of it as a results-oriented, purpose-driven, massive action plan. The sequence is critical because if you don't know what you want, why you want it, and then create a plan for how to get it in that order, your actions will not be sustainable through life's challenges, and you'll have little possibility of experiencing what it is you truly desire. This evolved way of thinking grants you the pleasure of experiencing the goal fulfillment you've always envisioned for yourself. There are 3 distinct steps that you must take to step into the RPM's management technique. The Rapid Planning Method is a straightforward time management approach designed to enhance productivity and achieve goals. It emphasizes clear objectives, purposeful actions, and continual progress toward success. According to Robbins, RPM is a thinking system rather than a mere time management tool, aiming to create a fulfilling and constantly evolving life. This technique encourages individuals to explore their full potential. Let's take a closer look at the acronym. Results-oriented, R. What do I really want? Purpose-driven, P. Why does it matter to me? Massive action plan, M. How will I achieve it? As we've already seen, Robbins' approach is not all that different from the why, what, when approach covered in Chapter 4, and will help you gain more clarity and focus. Here, there are those pesky negative emotions to think about. These negative emotions can get in the way of each stage of the process. This has been Self-Discipline for Tedious, Boring, and Difficult Things, written by Peter Hollins, narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2024 by Peter Hollins. Production copyright by Peter Hollins.